Hey everybody, Gisele Grenier here. In this class, we're going to do a fun project. I'm going to create two little stones and we're going to create these, we're going to call these screamers. And whether you want to use them year round to sell or just to put into plants, this is primarily for the Halloween season coming up. And I was inspired by a master artist. If you just look up screamer, the screamer, screaming, howling, anything where I'm going. So on the table, let's talk about what we're using. This is going to be so much fun. If you want to make a bunch of these, this is the perfect project for this. So I've got these little stones already prepped with gesso, and I use the DecoArt Media gesso, and I put on 3 layers using just a large flat brush. And you can see this is what it looks like with 2 layers, and that's with 3 or 4 layers. Okay, you can see the difference there. Ideally, I want to do the paint pour on this side, but this is a really heavy bump, so things are going to really flow, so I'm going to do it on this side. But on this particular rock, I'm going to do the pour on this side. Now with the rocks, the backs sort of end up unfinished, and then once everything is dry, then you just paint a solid color on the back, then you write your name. The paints I'm going to be using are the DecoArt Media Fluid Acrylics, Primary Magenta, Cad Orange Hue, and Titanium White. And in the little cups that I put in, I put 2 parts paint to 1 part of the DecoArt pouring medium. Mix it like crazy with these little kebab sticks that I cut up. Then what I did is I took some straws. These I prepared for another class I'm going to be teaching, but I thought I'd use them for this. Is these big straws, and I cut them on such an angle to get a fine point. I actually have a bamboo brushless like this, which inspired me, but I'm not going to go out and get you guys to spend $10 per bamboo brush times the number of paints you have, when you can just do it out of a straw and cut it into 3 pieces and do it yourself. Okay, so just like that. Then what you do is just scoop it up, and then you can pour the paint, and that way. This is really thick. I'm going to add a little bit of water to this. With the paints, because I'm working under studio lights, the paints become a little bit thicker as the moisture evaporates. So you can just add a little bit of water to it. The white is super fluid. I'm going to add a little bit more paint to that. I add a little bit too much water to that. So with this, the thicker the paint, the less it's going to flow. The thinner the paint, the more it's going to flow. Just don't put so much water in it, because then you'll kind of defeat the purpose of the cell creations and all the marbling. Gloves. You will need gloves. Now, drying time. I like to safely say 2 days for drying time. It's critical that the paint, every layer of paint, be dry before you even varnish. So 2 days is pretty good, unless you've done multiple layers of pours. Just make sure you give a good amount of drying time. So I'm going to put down one color, then the white, then another color. I'm going to do the stones at the same time. So let's start first. Let's get rid of this little stick here. And let's just get that really fluid. Tilt that. Just so I can get an idea of which direction the paint's flowing. So the paint is flowing this way. All right, so I'm just going to touch the sides just to encourage the paint to flow underneath. Wet paint travels where wet paint is, and where the areas are dry, not so much unless you put a lot of paint. So we'll do the same thing with the orange. Just getting an idea. Oh, this is really thick. Just getting an idea first on the thickness. That's why I put the little stick here first. Get the idea. Okay, see where the paint is flowing. The paint is really thick. It's not really flowing anywhere. So we've got one where it's a little bit not as thick, and the other, and this one here is it's thicker. Let's just encourage it to, whoops, go on the side. And I can scoop up a little bit more, just pour it back on. That's what I like about these little scoopy things. Okay. So we won't need to pour. We'll need the straw next. So now what I'm going to do is scoop that up and create a circle. The white, so you can see that the white is so fluid. So you can see where the direction the paint is going. This one's actually not going to be too bad. And you can pick up the rocks and move them around. You don't need to, but this one's going to have some beautiful marbling in here. And let's just encourage a little bit more here. And let's just kind of get a, see how heavy that is? That white paint is just so fluid. The red paint is just sitting right on top. So I'm just going to put, I don't know, I don't think this one's going to work. I don't think that one's going to work. Oh, I didn't need to do that one. Shoot, there's, because there's the mouth there. Well, let's see what happens. See, it already looks like a screamer. This one's got some beautiful effects on the edge there. What? That's, it's not happening on this one. It's happening on this one, though. So this is really thick, so we're going to see what's going to happen here. Yeah, that's, I don't think, that's not the table, it's, yeah, that's gonna, what if we did the rock this way? There we go. Now we have a bit of a screamer there. Let's see if we can do something here. I have no way of changing the leveling on this. The white is just too fluid. So what if we just made this up here? What I could do is I could let, yeah, as the white is drying, it's not moving as much. See, that's turning out interesting. Look at, see how that's changed? Put something there, and as that drips, that's going to push this one out of the way. So the one thing with these pours, you're never going to be able to predict what's going on. In the beginning where I put the paint on and then I want to see the direction, so this is where you kind of have to on the fly decide where you're going to put your paint. And this one here, on a scale of 1 to 10, that it turned out the way I wanted it to, is about a 6, because you can't predict it. This one here, completely different, but look at the effects. I wish I could get closer without that. It's neat. So now if I take a little bit more paint, and that's where you just kind of keep playing with it. Not muck around with it, but just as the paint starts to dry. That's because the white is too fluid. So when I use this white again, I'm going to add more paint, more medium, and not as much water, because I think I just sprayed too much water in this. There's a nice screamer there. If I tilted this way, I don't think I can get it. No, I won't be able to get it. But what I can do, ooh, turn the cup. There we go. Now it's not going to go move as much. This one here, we're not going to get the screamer face. I don't think we're going to get that just because the white is just so fluid. I think what we'll have to do is we'll just have to wait for the white to dry and then maybe do another layer. See, that's not moving as much now. So we have a nice screamer face on here. Okay, so let's see what we can do, even if it's just a dot. Red, a dot of red. Oh! And let's see if we can do the same thing here. Well, that's too much. Now we're cooking with gas. And I can just keep doing this, getting these concentric circles. I think I'll leave that one. See, this one is just not holding it. This is just not holding it. Okay, so we'll leave those. This is amazing. Take a snapshot of this. This is not what it's going to look like in a couple of days because as the paint just keeps, you can see that it's changing right in front of your eyes. The white is way too fluid. The orange is too thick. But let's see what happens in a couple of days. And then what we'll do from there is decide on the orange. Do we want to just do another pour on top or leave it the way it is? But either way, once they're dry, you can then varnish it. And I'll show you how to varnish it. I'll do one with the actual DecoArt top coat, which is for indoor use only. Then the other one, I'll use the DuraClear polyurethane varnish. And that's for indoor, outdoor. All right, so I'll see you in a couple of days. All right, so the stones are dry. I'm just putting on some gloves for varnishing. The screamer part gone. It's I told you what they look like when we did the snapshot before the last segment finished is not what they look like because the paint just dripped off. This one's actually quite nice. So the back is not the greatest, but that's just a matter of just finishing it, sanding off the hard edge, and just doing like a solid color if you're going to sign something, and we just have to varnish that part. Same thing with this one. I mean, look how beautiful that is. That is gorgeous. So the choice with the varnishing now is you can go with the clear pouring top coat, and I've already done a video on all the different finishes that you can work with, but because these are rocks, I always recommend an indoor-outdoor varnish. So with this, I use the DuraClear varnishes, and you can choose the finish that you want. I'm going to go with the high gloss, and just because I want to take advantage of all this beautiful intense color. Now, if you're guaranteed to know that it was going to be for indoor use only, if you couldn't use the clear pouring top coat, you can use triple thick as well. But again, they're strictly for indoor use. So I've got my special varnishing brush. I put some into the container here, and it's just varnishing. There's nothing extra special required for varnishing. Multiple thin, even coats. Okay, it's as simple as that. Multiple thin, even coats. Now, where I am right now, it is really cold, and the varnish is a little bit thick, so you always read the directions on the bottle as to the varnish that you're using, and for temperatures and stuff like that. It might be a little bit cold for me to be varnishing, so we'll have to see. There we go. And let's just put that over there, and then we'll just finish that edge like so. Now, if we were using the actual the clear pouring top coat, all you would do is just pour it over the rock. I like pouring it into another container so I can more control the pour, but pour it over the rock, let everything drip, wait a couple of days, and then it's done. But this is for indoor use only, so you got to make sure you remember that. when you're using an indoor outdoor varnish, you'll never go wrong. All right, so I'm gonna let these sit, and when they're dry, we'll come back and we'll finish everything up. Okay, the rocks are dry, but something happened to them overnight. It's Joe's fault. So I had the windows closed. I have a table in front and my drying rack was full. So I set everything on this table in front of the window. Joe opened the window before I went to bed last night. So what happens is that the top layer of varnish paint, regardless, will dry first. And then as what's underneath starts to dry and contract, the top will crack. That's what happened to these ones here because it was cold and wind, very breezy. The top layer of the varnish dried first. The rest of the rock wasn't finished, like the rest of the varnish, the layer, it wasn't finished. So as it completely dried overnight, I have a dog hair in my mouth, it cracked. But I actually like the look. It looks like snakeskin. So just to show you, see? So he apologized. But now I know that when I put the stuff on that table to tell him, or I maybe just put a post-it note, do not open this window. Okay, so that's the key. But so we've got the eyes here and the droopy mouth, and this one didn't turn out at all for the scary face. It just dripped off, but it's still a very, very pretty stone. Now with this, I can further paint on top of it. So I can paint a skull or a sad face or do another pour on top of this. You can multi-layer pours, but because there's varnish on this, what I'm likely to do is come in with a layer of matte medium. I might give it a bit of a sand, matte medium to create some tooth, and then put some paint on and then varnish it again. So that's an option of what can be done. All right, so I would love to see your take on screamer stones, and whether you paint them or do them as a pour, whatever. Just a screamer stone. If you don't have any stones, even on a piece of, an artist trading card or watercolor paper, whatever you have. So I'd love to see your pictures. Post them in the community, and if you have any questions, post them in the community as well or in the comments below. And I look forward to seeing what you create. All right, so until I see you in the next class, stay inspired.